Is going on? Happy Good Friday, and it is a Good Friday. So it is actually my ninth year of real estate. It's actually kind of funny saying that because in the beginning, I would always say when someone would ask me, they're like, "How long have you been in real estate?" And I would always just reply, "Long enough, long enough." That's how you get over that objection. But it was actually interesting this morning thinking about over the last 9 years. I kind of just fell into this. So this is actually going to be very in depth, kind of storyline of how I got into real estate, obviously, and what I think about it, what I like there, what's going on, how we doing. So we'll start way back in the beginning. So at age 12, there he is, my man, Chris L. So I started working at age 12 as a caddy, and as a caddy, you're waking up on Saturdays really early. You're bullshitting with the fellas. It was just a great time. And what I didn't know, and the reason I started at age 12 is that there was no choice. My parents were like, "You're gonna work." And you're gonna make money. It wasn't like, oh yeah, could I go actually caddy and carry 2 bags in July in the brutally heat of Long Island with no wind whatsoever? Can I just do that every single day for 7 years in the summer? Listen, don't get me wrong. I got free golf clubs. I met some awesome members. I won. I didn't win the caddy championship, but I won some golf clubs with it. The longest drive I won there. We played cards in the back. What I didn't know is that and I'm reading the book by Angela Duckworth called Grit right now, is that it was literally setting me up for grit. Yeah. It was work ethic. It was understanding that, and the reason being is that I had a ton of friends that left. It wasn't like a good job. Okay. The caddy master, that was his name. His name was Jay, but we called him the caddy master because he told you what loop you're going to go out on, who your group was. If your group sucked, you're going to be in the trees and the bushes, the sand trap. You're going to be all over the place. If they were good, they're in the fairway, then on the green, and that was it. So it was socialization. It was selling yourself. It was understanding the needs and the wants of someone else. It was customer service. It was also referrals because they would have to go and request you again. So Jay was in charge of that. You learned how to, so it was the caddy yard. It was about 15, 20 caddies back there, and there was a whole dynamic between us. You had the older guys, you had the younger guys, you had the new guys, you had the guys that would only do weekends, only do weekdays. And this is what I learned. And why does this have to do with real estate? We'll get to that in a second. But what I learned is that you have to play political alliances against each other, for each other, because you have a strong group of people. And until someone gets into that, it's like a prison system. Okay, when you get in there, it's like the whites are together, the blacks are together, the Hispanics are together, the women are together, and then they have, even within there, they have different tiers. So in other words, what I'm saying is, within real estate, you have all these different companies. Okay, you have Brown Harris Stevens, which is an older firm that's been around since the 1800s. You have Elman, which is very entrepreneurial. You have Halstead Property, which is where I was at. That's very corporate box strategy, like Corcoran. Corcoran is very box strategy. Compass is this cool new hip place that people are going to. They have the brand and everything else. It was the same thing with the cliques and the groups. Who did you want to hang out with? Who is actually getting the leads and the loops and everything else? So I went from there. At age 19, I was like, you know what? I got to go back into the city. So I went to a marketing position that I didn't like, Saks Communications. I can't believe I just remembered that. Saks Communications, it's probably still around. The owner was actually very attractive. Went from there. Then I did engineering and associates. I then started, actually, no, I bought a company, a pay-per-click on eBay. And I sold that 2 years later. I also started selling people's items on eBay. Okay, we'll get to that question in a second. One of them is doing a Facebook Live. One of them is doing a YouTube Live. One of them is putting your face on the camera and just pumping out the material. You can't just think of it, okay? And that's what I literally have thought about. I've done door-to-door sales. I've done telephone sales. I've done engineering. I've done marketing. I've done finance. I caddied. I was a waiter at 2 different locations. And really, when people say, how do I find my passion? How do I find my motivation? You have to just do a lot of shit. okay, which is going to get into the story of real estate. But that's the thing, is that people see the TV shows and they think it's like, just because they have a pulse and just because they have friends, that they're going to go in and just get lofts worth $5-6 million in Soho. No, you're gonna have people like me trying to cut your face into the concrete, and there's other people that are trying to cut your face, my face, and other faces in other companies into the concrete as well. This competition is here, and it's only going to get more fierce. Okay, why? Because service industries. This is the only two industries that are going to stay. Entertainment, any kind of entertainment. You know, vlogging, movies, original TV shows, documentaries. Entertainment is always going to be here. Social media, which is entertainment. All types of entertainment, because people need an outlet. Sports, plays, it doesn't matter. Any kind of entertainment. And then service industries. Service industries, unless you do actual shit that doesn't connect someone, you need some kind of differentiating aspect that people actually enjoy. Mine is my personality that I built over 10 years. If you saw me 10 years ago, you wouldn't be friends with me. Like, we'd be friends, but you'd be like, I'm not really drawn to him. Like, I would have to force the friendship, okay? So essentially, I got out of college. It wasn't like it was easy. So I walked in the spring, and then I had to take another semester because I didn't have enough credits. I had to take another semester for 2 weeks, then another, and this is during the summer, then take another semester for a month, and then I had to take a fall semester. Went into Oppenheimer funds, okay? And this was the first time that I actually learned that it's not about the resume, okay? Here's the examples that I do. Okay, you have the dating profile. The girl looks great, the guy looks great, and then you go out, and then it's like, okay, it got you the date, your photos and your profile. It got you the date, but can you get a second date? Can you get a relationship? Can you get what you want? The resume looks great, but that just gets you the interview, okay? What about the second interview, the third interview? What about the job, okay? It's the exact same thing with the calls. People think it's like you are the one that actually closes the business. So that was the first time. I was so underqualified for the financial firm that I was at. I was at Oppenheimer Funds. The girl that I replaced was like 27, okay? I was 22. It was my first job out of college. I sent out an email that I should not have to like the entire company. I didn't even fucking know. And I got called into my boss's office and like, don't ever do that again. And I was like, okay, this is a corporate world. I didn't understand this. I was completely underqualified, but I had on there, I had quickielinks.com, which was my website. So anyway, I'm like, this is my dream job. I absolutely love what I do. My brother sent me an email first week that I was there, and he said, everything that you do is your reputation. Everything you say, everything you think, everything you do is your reputation. And he said to uphold your reputation. And he said this in an email, which I was shocked at because obviously they filters on this, but he said, don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it. You could go your whole life and then you have one taint at the end of your life. You could have a sexual harassment suit like a lot of these guys that are getting taken down right now. All right? So I went through that and I'm like, okay, uphold my reputation. Did that. 2009 hits. Okay, 2009, if you guys are old enough, obviously something bad happened in the economy. Okay, you had 7 million people didn't have jobs, 3.5 million people didn't have home, or they were in foreclosure. 3.5 million people were in foreclosure. 7 million people lost their job. That's insane what happened, okay? You obviously know about Lehman and the rest of the banks that collapsed. So in the fall of 2008, Oppenheimer Funds, who's been around for 100 years, said, you know what, we're going to announce layoffs. And at the time I was there probably 2000. So I started in 2007, 2008, and I was only there a year and a half. Wow. I was only there about a year. 2007, 2008. Yeah. I was only there for a year, and I just said, this is not for me. You know, just the corporate policy. I was used to waitering. I was used to carrying golf clubs. I was used to, selling pots and pans, and I was also at Cutco. Did selling knives door to door. So that's the beginning of the crash. Well, in New York City. In the rest of the country, it hit a lot sooner. In New York City, it hit a lot later. We only had it for about a year, 2009 to 2010, and that was it, and then it just skyrocketed. In New York City, we didn't really get hit, and the reason being is that the rest of the country, the rest of the country mainly rents their properties. So if the renter loses their job, they move out, and then the person who owns it goes into foreclosure because they can't pay their mortgage. Okay, Vegas, Miami, LA. These places got pummeled, okay? Because the tenants lost their job, or Hollywood wasn't hiring like they were. They lost their job, they moved out, the owner couldn't pay it, and then they went into foreclosure. In New York City, we have co-op boards, we have condo boards, we have people that they have minimum standards, 10% down, 20% down, 50% down. You can't even finance. There's buildings you can't even finance. You have to pay all cash, okay? So as much as I don't like the co-ops, they kind of saved New York City. All right, so 2009 hits, and I'll never forget it. They do an all hands on meeting, call the entire company in, and they said, "Hey, listen, obviously you guys know what's going on, and we're next, and it's going to be our first layoffs in company history." And everyone starts freaking out. The whispering starts, and the person to my right is like, "How am I going to pay for my mortgage?" Because everyone thinks the worst. They think they're going to get laid off, and they're never going to get a job again. And to be honest, at that time, shit was going down. Like every you're like, Lehman, how did Lehman collapse? How did Merrill need to join with Bank of America? Why is like the car companies getting bailed out? Like, it was insanity. So everyone was thinking, oh shit, I'm not going to pay for my kids tuition, everything else. And I'm literally sitting there as a single guy saying, I don't fucking like what I do. And I turned to my left, my buddy Andreas, and I was like, I think this is my way out. And he's like, dude, what are you, nuts? You're never going to get a job again. He starts trying to talk me out of it. And then, they say, okay, everyone go back to their desks like nothing was talked about, which is crazy. They're like, just go back to your desks and fucking work. And everyone's like, okay, if I'm not going to be around, just tell me. So anyway, we go back to the desks. And I remember sitting at my desk and saying, like, shit, like, is this right for me? Like, I know the world is collapsing, it was imploding all around New York City. New York City, obviously, like I said, it got hit later. And I remember just standing up, and Bob Grill, wow, I can't believe I remember his name. He was the guy that gave the speech, and he was just below the CEO. I think he had an idea. Like, I was like the fun guy in the office, so they maybe he probably didn't have an idea. Like, maybe this is just my confidence level, but he was like my boss's boss's boss. So I walk into his office. I said, hey Bob, how's it going? I'm Charles Botensten. He goes, oh, okay, hi, how's it going? Any questions with the new project? I was like, well, actually, it has something to do with what you were just talking about. I know you announced layoffs and blah blah blah. And I said, and I just literally went into it. I didn't have a prepared speech. I just said, can you just put me on the list? And he looked. He was like, what do you mean? He's like, the layoff list? I was like, yeah, could you just put me on the list? I'm not really happy with and I'll never forget. He goes, sit down. I go and sit down. He stands up, closes the door, and he's standing over me, 6'4", 6'5" guy. And I'm looking up at him, and he's like, what are you going to do? I don't know, but it's not this. And he goes, he doesn't say anything. He walks behind the desk. He looks through the papers. He goes, Botensten, Botensten, Botensten. He goes, nope, not on here. And he goes, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. So he writes my name down, and I go, okay, thank you. And then I went into my boss's office. I said, hey, listen, I just put my name on the list. And shocked. Everyone's going crazy. Why would you do this? This is nuts. And a lot of people in retrospect just say, oh, it was the best thing that happened. Okay, but I send out an email, and I say, hey, listen, by the way, email me on my private email, because my work email, I volunteered to be laid off. And my brother replies, the same person a year and a half earlier, who said, don't fuck up your reputation. And my brother's now the COO, pretty much up there, of Deutsche Bank. He's doing quite well. He's doing fine. And he's come a long way, to say the least. We were not good kids. He replies and just says, who did you talk to before doing this? Who did you talk to before doing this? And I said, holy shit, maybe I screwed up, because I valued his opinion. I was like, oh, maybe I screwed up. I'm like, then I started thinking, I'm in New York City. My rent is almost half, actually more than half of my paycheck. And then the rest I wasn't saving any money. So I had like nothing saved up. And I just remember thinking, I may have screwed up, but at least I made a decision, and I did not have any idea. There were no shows. Maybe Los Angeles was out at the time, like $1 million listing in Los Angeles, but nobody was really watching. It was maybe the first season. You had a bunch of noodles on there, rolling around, talking about Lamborghinis like Ty Lopez, and they were, it was flashy, because it was the first season, so you had to entice everyone. So anyway, ended up, this is actually a funny story, ended up getting, so then I said, all right, you know what, I'm going to get my license. So within not even 3 weeks, I went every single day, multiple times a day to get my license. And I ended up studying, excuse me, ended up studying at like literally right after leaving Oppenheimer funds. And then because I had a trip at the end of the month to go down to visit my parents, and then we were going to Miami, and I was flying up. And Miami, so then I study. I passed both tests, and I was like, okay, cool. So go down to Miami. There's a storm. Oh, this is okay. So I know this is going to be long. I'm sorry, guys. So they have all these people that come in and try and recruit new people. The CEO of this company, CEO of that company, and everything else. Um, yeah, listen, cash is king. Since running my own business, cash is king. Always. That's why Google, Apple, all these big companies, they have tons of cash. It's everywhere. It's all over the world because they don't know when they're going to need it. Okay, a downturn or an acquisition or a merger or something like that, they don't know when they're going to need it. And it's the same thing with anyone. People use, because most people are employees. You look around, most people are employees. They're using it for their college savings, maybe a ring, a house, an investment, a yacht, whatever the case is. I'm using it because what if something fucking happens? I need that cash. Okay, it's not easy. So a lot of people are going around, and I ended up working because I really liked my manager, Platinum Properties, downtown on Wall Street, 30 Wall Street, I think was the address, Platinum Properties. Jeff Carlson was my manager, Danny Hedaya, Desiree, Kashi, and I remember going in there, and it was wonderful. You had such a great group of people. I'm friends with all of them still, and they just hired really well. This is 2009. Okay, 2009 was not a good year for anyone in real estate. And I get into real estate. Anyone in real estate, even if you're in there for 10, 20 years, like that literally wiped out people, wiped them out. 20 years in real estate, bye bye. Companies that have been around for a while, bye bye. It was just like the banks, all the real estate companies that were floating high in 2007, 2006, making 6%, 7%, 8% on selling homes. They were flipping houses like mad. Just went out of business overnight, just like that. So ended up working there. Dude, I literally had to put up Craigslist listings. It's known as bait and switch, which it's unethical. It's not illegal, but I think it is illegal now. But you put up a listing and you say, flex two. Flex two means you have a one bedroom and then you could flex it into a two bedroom. I was like, flex two for $1,800. Flex three, and we would come up with the most ridiculous titles. The titles, we would have emojis in there, and we would be paying, each one was $8. And we would spend hundreds of dollars on Craigslist listings, and they would be insane. We would spend hours trying to create these ads. We would have pictures of the pool, the roof, the doorman, and especially downtown. It was known as the financial district. Nobody wanted to live there. The World Trade Center was only 7 or 8 years into. They're still removing debris. Like nobody wanted to live down there. It was insane. It was only known for Wall Street and commercial buildings. That was it. And we're trying to push residential. We're trying to push residential in a recession, in the worst place that nobody wants to live. So we started pushing all the amenities you can get. We started pushing the price, the size, the finishes, because what they started doing, all these businesses were going out of, or all these companies were going out of business. So they were flipping the buildings from commercial to residential. So you're literally living in a commercial space. Imagine this being now a residential place. It was brand new, it was great, but like, who the fuck wants to live in the financial district? The financial district, I don't know if you've been to Manhattan, it's just concrete and tall buildings. There's no light, there's no views, there's no entertainment, there's no food down there. There was nothing. We were literally creating a dream. It was like creating Vegas. I know I'm giving a little too much credit to myself, or the team and Platinum Properties, but we started branding it. We started branding as a place that you can get the doorman and all these amenities. Then we started saying FIDI. And I'll give you this. This is funny. So Luis, who is on Million Dollar Listing, worked at our rival company. It was straight out of what was that, Anchorman, where they had the rival news. It was the same thing with us. And then also they had that one movie, Boiler Room. They had that rival firm and everything. We had a rival firm. So it was called Blackstone. Yeah, it was Blackstone. And they would copy our ads. They were so unethical. They were beyond. And it was just disgusting, some of the things that they did. So this is what I would say. I like to move it, but it's kind of cold out there. It is what it is. You get used to it. There are times that I'm like, it's pretty fucking cold. So we had Blackstone, and guess who worked there? Was Luis Ortiz, the guy that was on Million Dollar Listing. And we'd see them down on this place called Stone Street. Stone Street was actually a guy after 9/11. Obviously the whole area was devastated. There was debris and papers and shit everywhere. It was crazy. So this guy bought Stone Street, converted it from car lanes, and this is a place that's a block away from where George Washington stayed. It's known as Frank's Tavern, actually. It's still around. It's one of the oldest restaurants. They have buildings that are made completely of wood downtown. It's unbelievable. Highly recommend you go down there. It's beautiful. It's cobblestone streets. It's four-story buildings with the old ship steel wheels and whatever. It's just unbelievable. So Luis Ortiz and everything else, and he'd be down there and we'd bullshit around and everything else. We're like, oh, look who it is. And he had long hair down to here and a top hat. So if you Google Luis Ortiz, you could see what he looked like back then. And we'd make fun of this guy. And we'd be like, dude, what are you doing with the top hat and the full suit? It was July. It was like 98 degrees. And he would be like, it's my shtick. It's my shtick. And what I noticed is that he was creating a brand. That was the first time, what's going on? It was the first time that I actually said, okay, you know what? Creating a brand is a lot. You got to create the brand. So, worked there for about, I worked there from 2009 to about 2011. And then I started understanding that I needed to do sales. I couldn't, my first year I made 38,000. My second year I made like 39 or $40,000 and I wasn't paying taxes. So the IRS came after me and I was like, oh shit. Because my accountant was it was this bum fuck from Queens, and he's just like, I didn't even know. I just gave him my shit. So this is what I'm talking about, is I want to create a school when I'm 50 years old that literally goes over the shit that we need. Taxes, credit, saving money, public speaking, motivation, health, blah, blah, blah. But that's 50 years out, 50 years, it might be 50 years out when I'm 50 years old. And so essentially, I'm now in debt. I'm now working at a rental place. The market starts to pick up, and I say I need to get into sales. So I was doing rentals. I need to get into sales. So I started going around and calling, and I just started saying, "Hey, Halstead Property. Hey, Corcoran. Hey, Elman. Hey, Brown Harris Stevens. Hey, Sotheby's. Do you guys have an extra empty position or a chair or anything else?" And they all started saying, no, no, no. Who do you work for? What's your sales? Things like that. And they started click, 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 click. So I said, you know what? Fuck it. All right. So I printed out a map and I literally put every office that I wanted to work at, and I put a little flag there, and I wrote handwritten cards, and I had my resume, and I just went door to door. And I just went and I just walked up and I just, hey, how's it going? And you obviously online, you can know who the manager is. I said, hey, is Richard here? Hey, is Sarah here? Hey, is blah, blah, blah here? And they say, no, they're busy. Who are you? And I said, oh, I'm applying for a position. They said, okay, great. They can get back to you. Of course, they're not going to, take a walk-in. So I would leave my resume and write a card and everything else. And essentially, over time, I would then follow up. Got 2 interviews with Halstead and 1 at Corcoran. And this woman asked me, how are you going to get business? I had no idea. I was like, I just want to work for Corcoran. And she's like, okay, that doesn't really fly. And that was the second interview. And I didn't know a business plan. I didn't know what to do. People are asking like what to do and things like that. You just figure it out. That was the thing. Like people, it's all on the internet now. Back then, Google wasn't like what it is now. Ended up working at Halstead. It was all right. They taught me sales. I saw the environment. There was 150 agents in my office, and it was a lot of competition. And it was like, how do I separate myself? So I started coming in earlier and listening to phone calls. And then it really clicked, and I said, okay, so what's Halstead doing? What is Halstead doing that I'm doing differently. Okay, Halstead is the brand. They own the space. They're providing us the service, the training, and things like that. And then I took out this one guy for lunch. His name was Brian Lewis, and he just actually switched the Compass, which I was shocked at. And I took him out to lunch, and I said, "Hey, listen, what do you do?" And he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" Because he was the top agent. Took him out to lunch. He didn't tell me anything. Took out someone else. They didn't tell me anything. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, why the fuck are these people not telling me what they're doing? So they're like keeping it a secret, which is ironic because I know that even if I tell people what to do, like my life calls, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. All right. So essentially, ended up going to Halstead, being there for about 2 years. I created a website. I started doing a blog, like a written blog, and I was like, what about? So this is funny. So I got a lead from it, and then I started playing Halstead or I started playing softball for Halstead. And this one girl who I was trying to date at the time, I emailed her. I said, hey, we should go out and everything else. And then I get an email from my manager, from the head of marketing, and the CEO was on the email, and it said, take down your website. I was like, and then I started like, I got all red and I'm like, what did I do wrong? So I walked into my manager's office and I said, yeah, I just got this email. You're on it. And I don't know what I did wrong. He's like, you can't have a website. I was like, but I just got leads from it. They're like, no, you can't have a website. It needs to be branded Halstead. And I was like, but it, but like I'm writing it. And he goes, no, 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 you don't understand. You need to take it down. And I go back to my desk and I remember thinking like, why do I have to take down the like, how do I separate myself then? If people don't understand, then I started doing property tours. People were making fun of me. You should see my old property tours. I was awkward. My suits didn't fit. I had acne. I was fat. It was totally different. And those are out in the ether somewhere. So then I went to him and about 2 months later and I said, hey, listen, this guy who works at Halstead and he's doing very well. His name is Richard Ornstein. I said, Richard's got this logo and I would love to actually brand myself with the logo on not only my emails but my video. And my manager says, yeah, that's not going to happen. I said, yeah, but Richard does it. He goes, you're not Richard. And I remember leaving. I'm like, what a dick, just leaving the office. And I'm like, you know what? Like, that's when I started to think, you know what? People are working with me because of me and not because of the company. So my buddy John McGinnis ended up going out on his own, started Harlem Properties, and he was a true hustler. This guy would call for sale by owners, expireds, past clients, referrals. He had no fear. And if you saw the guy, the nicest guy in the world. You're like, how is this guy take so much rejection, doesn't give a shit about anyone? Well, no, I mean, care about what happens, the reaction. So he goes out and he starts Harlem Properties, and then it clicks. And I go, maybe I could do this on my own. Like not even knowing all these things that could go wrong wasn't even in my mind, wasn't even in the ether. Okay. So essentially, he goes out, starts it. It's about 8 months after him starting it. And I think I don't know if he texted me or I texted him. And I said, hey, John, can you grab a call? And he goes, yeah, absolutely. So we grab a call. He's on it, obviously. And I just ask him one simple question. I say, how is it? And he just goes into this diatribe. He's like, I can call whoever I want. I get 100% because what happens in real estate is that the house, like in Vegas, takes 50%. When I was at Platinum Properties, they took 50%. When I was at Halstead Property, they took 50%. So if I made $100, they took 50 of my dollars, which is crazy. 50 of my dollars. Bye-bye. So then I started adding it up, and I'm like, holy shit. I actually not lost, that Halstead took 6 figures 1 year. And that's when it clicked. And I remember thinking this, okay, so when I was at Halstead, I'll tell you this other story. So at Halstead, each desk costs a certain amount of money. In other words, you have licensing fees, you have computer fees, you have telephone fees, and obviously you have the secretary, you have printing costs, you have all these costs. And they divide it into each desk, and they say each desk needs to produce a certain amount of money. And my first 6 months at Halstead, I produced $16,000. My manager calls me into the office. He tells me, so that means I only did $8,000 in 6 months. That means almost just over $1,000 a month. Okay, you can't live off of that. That's not even without taxes. Okay, so Halstead took 8 and I took 8. And he calls me and he goes, by the way, Charles, you've only done 16,000. If you don't produce, so he goes, you're going to be sharing a desk. And I'm like, oh, with who? And he goes, Sherry. Sherry sucked. Okay, Sherry was the biggest bitch in that whole office. And I go, oh, okay, when? He goes, today. And I'm like, okay, no heads up, nothing. And it was essentially, the reason being is that he's seen way too many people with a lot of potential leave the industry because they didn't live up to their potential. They didn't at all. They just would show up and do the same shit every single day, just every single day. And nothing would happen. Nothing would change. No business would come in. They wouldn't close anything. So I ended up sharing a desk with Sherry. And then that day, this woman, something Cohen, came in, took my desk. Dina Cohen ended up taking my desk. And she was like this rock star from another company. So I was like, all right, she deserves my desk. And ended up sharing a desk with Sherry. Sherry sucked. She was mean, she was nasty, she was vindictive, and sharing a desk. So she would come in, she would be at the desk, and it was embarrassing. It was really, truly embarrassing. It wasn't the fact that I was sharing a desk with Sherry, but everyone knew that if you shared a desk, you weren't producing. And the embarrassment and the shame with people walking by, they're like, why is Sherry's stuff on your desk? I'm like, we're sharing it. And they're like, oh. And that embarrassment, that shame, and I tell people when they join real estate, you literally, this is actually in life, this is just a life lesson right here, is that something happens, okay? It could be joining a team, it could be a relationship, it could be marriage, kids, a business, whatever. Something happens, and at that moment, you make a decision, okay? Tony Robbins talks about this all the time, and I didn't equate it to that until Tony Robbins. And you make a decision, you say, I'm gonna keep on going, or I'm gonna leave. Okay, so at that moment, when Richard told me, you are now sharing a desk with Sherry, I remember walking out. It was a beautiful day out in New York City. I'd been there at Halstead. I thought my dream company. I had no money. I just made only $6,000, so I couldn't even pay rent. I was probably in debt, and I just remember the sun beating down. I'm down on Broadway in Greenwich Village, which is a beautiful area of Manhattan. It's just below Union Square, and just walking down the block, and I was so fucking lost. I was so lost. I looked like I probably looked homeless. My face, I was pale, and I just remember looking down, and I was just like, I was speechless. I'm like, how did this happen? How did my life come down to this? In debt, 6 months at what I thought was a dream job. Maybe this was a wrong mistake. Embarrassing, because I was posting everywhere that I was, doing all this business in the rentals. Then I go to Halstead, and then I'm not doing anything. And then if I leave the industry, and I remember looking around, two things clicked. And I actually, when people doubt, you either consider what they're saying. Okay, so when I left Oppenheimer Funds, my brother said, who did you talk to about doing that? I said, you know what? I'm going to show him. But that was 2 years ago, so I couldn't use that motivation. And then Richard said, you know what? You're going to share a desk. So you either make a decision at that moment to stay in real estate or to leave real estate. And at that moment, you say, you know what? I'm going to leave real estate or I'm going to stay in real estate and I'm going to do whatever it takes. Whatever it fucking takes. I'm going to come in on weekends. I'm going to make calls. I'm going to email everyone. I'm going to post on social media. And you need that internal drive. Okay, they've talked about it. They said if you have a heart attack early in life, that you have a higher chance of actually living longer than if someone never had a heart attack and they had their first one at 70 or 80 years old. Why? Because the person that has their heart attack at 50 years old or 45, it's their wake-up call. Okay, in the movie Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, they visit this person who was smoking, they were eating like shit, he was fat, he was overweight, he was in the middle of America, and they visit him, and essentially Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, highly recommend the documentary. They had a green juice machine, they gave it to this guy, the guy's like, you actually drink this shit? And then they went and they visited him 7 months later, and that was his wake-up call. He was going his whole life right into the graveyard, his whole life. Just one heart attack, one stroke, bye-bye, you're gone. And watched, I think I saw it, I don't know which one it was. I think I saw both because I got obsessed. I bought the juicer. I highly recommend it. Oh, he put all the weight back on? No. It wasn't the big guy. It was the guy at the gun store. The guy at the gun store because what's his name? Unless he did, I have no idea. But he went back there, and the point of the story is when the host went back there, he went up to the guy and he said, "Whoa, like you lost weight and everything else. What happened?" And he goes, "I went home and I said I want to see my daughter graduate. Okay, I want to see my daughter graduate, and that was the motivation. I want to see my son do well. I want to be there for my wife. So." No, you're right. The gun store guy, he kept it off, which was amazing. So he had his why. And my why is actually based on people doubting me. I don't like when people tell me, Charles, you're doing great. Oh yeah, the big guy, yeah, he put it all back on. That was a sad story because he was really big. He was really large and he was motivated. So my why was actually my brother doubting me. And then I used that for 2 years. And then when Richard told me, you know what, you actually are not going to be at this company. So this was the conversation before I went out. And he said, I said, how do I get my desk back? And he said, you have to produce $184,000. Okay. At the time, I was, I don't know, 25 years old, $184,000. And he said, you have to do it by the end of the year, which meant 6 months. Okay. So I'm sitting there and I leave the office. I'm out in Broadway and I said, you know what? Fuck him. I'm going to do this. And I didn't know how I was going to do 184,000. No one taught how to business develop. They didn't tell you how to work out for referrals. There was no scripts. There was nothing. It was just go into real estate. So he's seen all these people just turn over in real estate. So he didn't give a shit. It was just another person. It was just another agent that was just going to go and leave. So I ended up working on weekends, coming in before everyone else, emailing for sale by owners. I wasn't calling them at the time, but I was emailing them. I was asking for referrals. I ended up just saying and doing everything, just saying and doing anything I could. I took all the business I could. And at the end of the year, I produced $196,000. I ended up getting my desk back. And that was literally the first time that I said, holy shit, I can do this. And then I started becoming part of the first page. So you have 3 pages of agents. It has their production, their weekly, blah, blah, blah. And every week, this woman, God bless her heart, Sarah Rotter, she was the manager. I really clicked with her. And she goes, Charles, you're on the first page. You're the first page of all these agents, 110 agents. You're on the first page, which was, I don't know, top 20. And I was like, holy shit. And we were the top producing office. All right. So I said, okay, this is great. Fast forward to John McGinnis. He was doing really well. Then I started thinking about it. And then I started thinking, okay, I'm giving 6 figures to them, to Halstead Property. I was like, you know what? They're not providing me anything. So I started taking out all my clients to lunch. And I took my top clients out to lunch, drinks, dinner, whatever they wanted, coffee. And I asked them one simple question. I said, oh, how's it going? Do you have any business for me? And then I asked them one simple question. I said, and I'll give you 2 pieces of advice that I got. And one of them I did not use. The other one I did. So I would take them out and I would ask one simple question is, did you work with me because of Halstead or did you work with me because of me? And single-handedly, everyone said, we worked with you because of you. And that's when it clicked. And I said, you know what? This whole company atmosphere was not really working. People are working with me. They're not working with Halstead Property. Halstead Property is just the brand name. If you're an insurance agent or you're, Ford dealer, the Ford dealer, what's the difference between you and another dealership? It's still the same car. It's still the same kind of full service listing or full service buying service. So that's when I started putting my business plan together. 8 months later, I zero out all of my deals and I walk into my boss's office and I tell him, hey, listen, hi, how's it going, Richard? At this point, we didn't really have the best relationship for whatever reason. I don't know if you liked me, but it wasn't a big deal because your manager's there only if shit like hits the fan. So this is a crazy story. Oh, so the other piece of advice by Elliot, who's a client, he's a good friend now, and he said, you're talking about branding a lot. You're talking about marketing a lot. He goes, that's not going to keep you in business. And it clicked. And I didn't understand. I was like, oh, okay, what is? He goes, sales. And it didn't make sense at the time. And I was like, oh, okay, Elliot. Yeah. Meanwhile, everyone was saying they were working with me because of me and not because of Halstead, but Halstead was the brand. So I was like, yeah. But that was the worst mistake I could have taken. And, I'll trim this down to the meat of the crux. So ended up putting together my business plan, walk into my manager's office, and I say, hey, Richard, how's it going? And during this time, I'm also taking my broker's license, which means that you can open your own business, your own firm, and go in and I say, hey, listen, here's the sheet. So you have to get your LLC signed. If you're going out on your own, you have to get it signed by your manager and the actual broker at the firm. So at Halstead, Corcoran, Elliman, Compass, there's only one broker. Everyone else is a salesperson, or everyone else is an associated broker, but there's only one true broker, and that's the person that's legally liable for the entire company. So Keller Williams has one person that's legally liable for everyone. They're the only ones that could sign the document if you want to go out on your own. So I had to get Richard's signature, and he's looking at this, and there's three columns. There's the associate broker, there's the salesperson, and then there's the broker. And the broker means you're going out on your own. He goes, the broker is check marked. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna start my own company. And he goes, where is this coming from? I was like, I've been thinking about it for 8 months. I was looking at, where the industry is going and things like that. And he goes, listen, I think you're making a rash decision. Does this sound familiar to Oppenheimer funds? I think you're making a rash decision. And he goes, sleep on it. But I already made up my mind. But I said, you know what? For the benefit of the doubt, I'm gonna sleep on it. So I ended up sleeping on it, and I came back and I said, yeah, this is it. So he ends up signing it. I had to go to Diane Ramirez, who's the CEO of Halstead Property, had an amazing relationship. She is a beautiful soul. I have nothing but incredible words for her. I would dance with her at company. This is actually a funny story. The first company party, the dance floor is there. I'm young, I'm hip. Everyone else is older, and they're like, they're doing this, but I'm like, yeah, let's rock into it. And, young, naive Charles Botensten. So this woman's out there, and no one's dancing with her. She's like in her 50s. So I start like twirling around, do the back bend, doing the forward bend, and then after when the song's done, and people are like clearing out of the way, and we have like the whole dance floor, and then she goes, oh, great dance, high five, and she goes, let's grab a drink, or I'm gonna go grab a drink or whatever. So she walks over, and then I walk over to my buddy and goes, do you know who that is? I'm like, no. Is she in our office? He goes, that's Diane Ramirez. She runs Halstead. I was like, oh my God. Dude, the whole night people were talking about it. They're like, you were dancing with Diane Ramirez, because everyone was frightened of her because she was the CEO, and I was backbending her. I was like throwing her around, and I had no idea, which is actually a really funny story. So she, every Christmas party, would say, sing me a dance, because I was the only one that would dance with her. So then I played softball and whatever. Ended up visiting her in the office. I was so frightened to tell her I was going out on my own. And she said, you know what she said? So so Richard, before I left, he gets up, he closes the door, and I said, can you sign it? And right before signing, he said something very interesting. He said, and he's been a manager at Halstead. Now he's the president. And he said, I've always wanted to start producing again. So they get paid, I don't know, 225,000. But at that age, say 50 years old, I think he's right around 50, 55 years old, and he looks great. He said, you kind of hit a plateau. And after 20 years of managing, you see the same shit. It's just it's real estate deal is the exact same thing. The clients are a little bit different. The price range is a little bit different. The deal's a little bit different. But he's seen everything, and he can handle everything, because after 20 years, you're doing the same thing every single day. And that was the first time he was vulnerable with me ever at any time. I was working there for 2.5 years. It was the first time he's ever said, I wish that I can get back into it, and he's been thinking about that, getting back into producing, because you can make a ton more money. Okay, the top agents are making $15 to $20 million a year. Like Freddie Eklund is probably making $18 million a year. There's a lot of money, okay, that could be made. Obviously, there's taxes. He pays it out to his team, things like that. So he's probably pulling in 8 or 9 or whatever, but still a ton of money. And obviously he has brand deals and everything else like that. So when I went to Diane, Richard was like, you shouldn't do this. I want to get into producing, blah, blah, which was the only vulnerable moment. Then when I went into Diane, she said something very interesting. She said, good for you. Good for you. I was in the exact same position 30 years ago when I was starting Halstead Property with Clark Halstead. And I was at a company that I didn't like. I didn't like how they were going. Obviously, I know that's not how you feel about this, but go out and do it. And I remember leaving. I was like, when I hear someone say they want to do something that they want to do, I'm going to give them, maybe a word of advice. I would never tell them not to do it. And I've actually kept true to that. What's going on, Erwin? And I've kept true to that. A lot of people ask me, should I get into real estate? I say, listen, if you're looking for benefits and short hours and owning your own business and you think it's going to be easy, think again. It's not. Whether it's owning your own business or it's real estate, which is almost the exact same thing, do it so you could say you did it. But that's the good thing about people in personal development. Yeah, you always say go do it, okay? Because regret is going to be the worst thing. Ended up hugging her, blah blah blah. I'm at so this is the end of 2000. So when I first decide, I actually went to my family. So my family, we have firemen, teachers, corporate, just very structured family, very traditional family. And when I went to them and I said I'm going to start my own business, it was Thanksgiving and my uncle and I just went into Thanksgiving and I was like, screw it. So people would ask me, oh, how's the marketplace? I would tell them, the market's great and everything else. And I remember this time I replied and I said, I think I'm starting my own firm. My Uncle Ray freaks out. He yells at the top of his lungs. He goes, hey, Rita, who's my mom. He goes, hey, Rita, which is his sister. Rita, get over here. Get over here. You hear what this guy's, and he's yelling, and now everyone's like, whoa, what's going on? And he goes, you hear this? Charles is starting his own firm. And I'm like, oh my God. And then everyone walks over and they're like, you're starting your own firm? What are you starting your own firm? Well, you're not happy? Is the market? And then they start questioning. I wasn't ready for the questions. I didn't know why I was doing it. I just knew that I was just going with my gut. And I couldn't answer the questions confidently. They're like, what are you going to do differently? Have you ever started your own business? Have you ever done this before? What about the office space? What about the licensing? What about the branding, the website, and getting business? Are people going to go with a smaller firm? Are they going to go with you? Do you have enough people working for? And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, I didn't think of any of this. I just knew that I wanted to do it. So I ended up getting the sheet signed by Richard and my CEO. And I could tell you, got I already talked about this, and this year I'm going to start doing each month. I'm going to do chapter by chapter by chapter on what not to do when starting your own company. And essentially, what I could tell you right now is the number one thing that people focus on. They get seed money, they get angel investors, they get Series A funding, whatever the case is. They get all this money, and then they blow it on the wrong things. Just like I did. I got Class A, 17 or 1271 Avenue of the Americas. Go look that up. It's Class A office space. Class A means top of the line. You have dozens of, amenities like, a cafeteria. You have multiple doormen. You have security. You have just this beautiful high rise that looks very professional. And I remember going around and I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is it. Ended up signing, and I was like, holy shit, I got to produce immediately. They asked for 2 months. They asked for 2 months up front, the last month, and 2 months of security, which was like 20. They almost had like $15,000 to $18,000 worth of my money, and I was like, okay, well that's yeah. Was that the place with the roof you filmed on? No, that's actually my new office that I'm at right now, and it's crazy expensive. It's about $3,000. The one I'm in right now is $3,000. Look at this. It's a 10 by 10 foot thing, but it's the confidence that I can actually do this, but it's also where you're going, the journey you're on. And everything, as Steve Jobs said in his commencement speech, I think at Stanford, said, looking back, it all makes sense. The dots connected. But looking forward, it looks fucking challenging. How am I going to start a business? How am I going to go out on your own? How are you going to leave Oppenheimer Funds, which was a stable job? You weren't even on the list to get laid off, okay? And I'll go back to one quick story, which was actually funny. So Richard, not my Halstead, at Oppenheimer Funds. So he put me on the list, and then they called, and I said, hey, and I already knew, and I told people, I said, I put my name on the list and everything else. So I get the call, and they call you, hey, come to conference room 11A, which was actually overlooking the trade center. It was very, it was a crazy space to see them putting it up and whatnot. If you haven't been to the trade center, I highly recommend it. Just, emotional area. And they called me into 11A, which was the conference room. So it was the CEO. This guy flew in from Denver just to do this, Richard and someone else. And I think the someone else was like the COO. So it was three of them across from there. And they had this prepared script. They said, Charles, we're unfortunate to tell you that we're going to lay you off. Here's what you're probably going to get as a bonus and 3 months of upfront money. It was, they call it, parachute or whatever you want to call it. Just a stipend, as you're leaving, severance package. That's what they would call it. we're going to give you health care for 6 months and whatever. They went into that. I was like, yeah, yeah, no, no, I know. And they're like, because everyone else is walking in, they're like, "Oh my god, how am I gonna do this?" And I'm walking in, I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, no, no, I know." And then they're looking at each other, and they're like, what do you mean you know? And you don't really seem surprised. And Richard like goes like this. He goes, and I'm sitting there like, I see Richard, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for my rent? It was such a, like a, I flipped like a pancake. I went from, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I see Richard, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. This is going to be crazy, And they're like, yeah, I know. It was such a funny moment. Obviously now, probably nothing can happen. So the number one thing that the three mistakes that I did, and you could see it why a company fails. All right. So let's just move that like that. Is they focus on marketing and not sales. Okay. That was my mistake. Number one. Focused solely on what does my website look like? What does my brand look like? What are my colors? What's the .com? What's going to be on my website? What's the content? My first website was a piece of shit Wix. It was a Wix.com website. It was a dump. This thing mobily looked like shit. This thing pieces would be everywhere. I put my listing up. It was just such a brutal website, brutal. Then I went out and I got a website by Real Estate Webmasters. They charged me $6,000 for a website, and it was like a $2,500 a year investment. So it was like $8,500, and I went from zero to hero. And then what I noticed was it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter. Okay, I finally learned that literally the last 6 months. It doesn't matter about what you post on social media. You have millions of companies, not millions. You have like tens of thousands of companies that the CEO is not on social media. My brother's not on social media. He's doing pretty well as a COO of Deutsche Bank. He's on LinkedIn. He's barely on LinkedIn. So it's not what you produce. It's not what you produce content wise. Yes, that's going to help and that's great. And Gary's fantastic, but he doesn't talk about the sales part. The sales part is everything. Erwin knows if you're not producing, you're fucked. Your business or in real estate, the turnover ratio is like 74% as new licensees come into the industry and then they're gone. Okay? So for me, understanding, okay, well, actually I need to not worry about the website and pay $8,500. Where could that $8,500 went to? Actually advertising, okay? The office space. I looked around, I was like, nobody cares about this. You know, conquering creative, yeah, but that if that's your job, if you're a writer, if you're Ryan Holiday, or you are a blogger, or you are someone, Seth Godin, those people create content every day because they that's what they do. That's what they do. My job is not to produce content. Okay, it's a side business. And finally, after 9 years, I finally have come around that that's all the shit that I do at the end of the day. At the beginning, exactly, that's your job. That's how you get money. That's how you get paid. Okay, for me, that's not how I get paid. Okay, I get paid by bringing two people together that want to get put together, a buyer, a seller, or a renter and a tenant, whatever the case is. I bring them together and I get paid. That has nothing to do with content. Okay, that has all to do with what's the service you're bringing. Are you reaching out? Are you asking for referrals? Are you making sales calls? Seems like you don't have any clients. Yeah, exactly. There was no point in having that office space. No point in putting down $18,000. And I've told multiple people, I said, don't spend any money that you need to. In real estate, yes, there's starting costs, which is you have to get business cards, you have to get licensed, you have to get your licensing fees, you have to become part of the trade group. Yes, there's mandatory things that you need, but you don't need a fancy bancy website. I went out and I bought brand new iMacs. That was like $1,500 for four. I went out, I recruited, I hired too quickly, which was a cost as well. That was like another $400 or $500 per month. I look back and I'm like, yes, as Steve Jobs said, it all makes sense that I'm getting to the place right now, and I have no fucking idea how I've kept in business. I have no idea because I've just been blowing money on things that didn't matter. In the last 6 months, I finally came around and I said, you know what matters? Is making calls, is getting referrals, is getting business, is closing business, because I can't even upgrade my website if I don't have any money. Okay, I can't even worry about my marketing collateral and my materials and my letterhead if I don't have any money. So number one was focusing on marketing over sales. Number two was hiring too quickly. People, they scale out. Like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, why do people do that? It's their ego. Okay, it's their ego. Frederick Eklund is going to do $1 billion worth of business. He has 10 people working for him, maybe 11 or 12. That's an insane amount of productivity. Every person on that team is making at least a buck 25, a buck 50, at least. And then you have people making a few 100,000 with them. That's what it comes down to. For generations, I've been blessed enough to be deeply involved. And you said it's on point, of course, because I went through it and it doesn't work. Okay? If you look at any of the really good sales books, it's all about reaching out to people that you know to bring in business. Okay, so I hired too quickly. So it was the ego of saying, I have 4 people working with me. I have 10 people working for me. I have blah, blah, blah. So I hired too quickly. I didn't know how to manage. I wasn't bringing in enough business. I was a bad manager. I expected them to do things without me actually doing it. Those were all videos that I've done before. What I just told you is literally the basis to management, which is you do what everyone else wants to do, or you did what everyone wants to do. You're a manager of you own a restaurant. Make sure you're the maitre d'. You're in the kitchen. You understand the waiters. You understand the bellhops, the doormen. You understand the bouncers. You understand all their jobs. Okay, you don't need to do it. I'm not saying you need to do it. At one time, you had to have done it. Obviously, if not a bouncer or a cook, if that wasn't for you, but you have to understand it. So they could see you in the kitchen in case shit's going down, in case it's a crowded restaurant. They want to see you picking up plates. If you go out and you pick up plates and you're the owner of the restaurant, do you understand what that says to the waiters? The waiters are going to hustle. The bellboys are going to hustle for business, or whatever. What is it? The people that pick up the plates and everything, whatever those people are called, that you tip them out at the end of the night. They were the most important people, because if they're overwhelmed, you'd have dirty tables, and then you wouldn't be able to flip the tables, and then you'd make less money. So yeah, it's the same thing in everything. The problem was I wasn't doing it. So busboys, thank you. So what I was telling people was, this is what you need to do, but I wasn't doing it. Okay, so number 2, I was a bad manager, or I overhired. Number 3 is that I expected them to do it. Okay, that's totally different than me doing it. Okay, expecting is not, because there was no goals around it. There was no metrics about how many calls, or what do you say, or who do you ask. So I was expecting them to do things because that's how it was taught to me. But the problem is, that's like, listen, there's a ton of research, and you could disagree with me on this, but there's a ton of research that if your father is an alcoholic, or your mother is, died of some cancer, you're thinking about it and you get it. Okay, you get that cancer, you have anger management issues, or you go through a divorce because your parents went through a nasty divorce, or your mother doesn't like men, or your father doesn't, or whatever the case is, whoever you're into, it doesn't matter. But you don't like a certain thing, and then you grow up not liking that. A group of people, a business, an industry, whatever the case is, because that was the environment you're in. Okay, you have that old folk tale where you had twin brothers that their father was an alcoholic. He died from an alcoholic. He was abusive. He was blah blah blah, and they visited both of the brothers, twin brothers, 30 years later, and they went to one brother and they said, "Hey, how's it going? Your father has passed away." And they asked him, "How are you doing?" He goes, "I'm an alcoholic. I can't believe this. Fuck him." And they said, "Why are you an alcoholic?" He says, "Whoa, look at it. Look at the house I was born in. He was abusing my mom, blah, blah, blah." They went to the other brother and they said, "Okay, how's it going? What are you up to?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm doing great. I'm an attorney and I'm doing very well. I have a family and everything else." And they said, "Why? How?" And he goes, "Well, did you see where I grew up? I would never do that." So it's really two different mindsets. I'm going to be that person because that was the environment I was around, or I'm not going to be that person because it was the environment around. So the problem was I was literally thrown out. I was never trained at Platinum Properties. They just gave me a map of the financial district. This is pre iPhones and everything else, and they just gave me a map of the financial district, and I had to go around to the doorman and say, "Hey, listen, can I preview the properties? Can I preview this building? Can I look at the amenities? Can I understand what the inventory is?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure, come in and check out the studios and 1 bedrooms." But I then became that manager where I was like, "Go and do it." Okay? So understand throughout everything I just said, literally in the last 58 minutes, I didn't think I was going to be talking this long, but literally the last 58 minutes, what it comes down to is where I am right now is nowhere where I want to be, okay? But looking back, as Steve Jobs said, all the dots connect, and there's one simple fact, is that I just went with my gut. Always go with your gut, okay? There's analytical people, but essentially, wrap up. All right, I'm sorry. Go do whatever you want to go do. Is that go with your gut, okay? Live the life true to yourself, which was one of the regrets of the 5 regrets of the dying, was I didn't live a life true to myself. When I started my own company, my sister for half an hour for half an hour, literally tried to convince me. I'll never forget this. She goes, oh, she called me after Thanksgiving and she said, hey, listen, I know what you said at Thanksgiving. You're starting your own company. I don't think that's a good idea. And the reason being is that I took her around in 2010, which means I was only a year into real estate. And she goes, you didn't really do a good job. I was like, yeah, I know, Kerry, but you have no idea. You have no idea how much I've improved and everything like that. Okay. And she just tried, she's like, you weren't really good at sales. You were really good at convincing. You kind of asked some questions that you should have known. You didn't really. And she tried to convince me for half an hour. And this is someone I respected so much, or I still do. But her opinion mattered so much because she was the first person when I left the Oppenheimer funds that said, good for you. Let me know if you need any contacts. My brother said, don't do it. So in other words, go with your gut. Go with your gut. Always. I grew up in a family that was very traditional. I'm the black sheep. Okay. So when I left Oppenheimer funds, brother said, why are you doing this? When I went from Platinum Properties to Halstead Property, my girlfriend at the time, she actually kind of encouraged me, but she literally said, she goes, why are you going to leave something that's really good? So that was going from Platinum Properties to Halstead. When I was going from Halstead to starting my own company, my sister convinced me or tried to convince me to not do it. Richard Grossman, bless his heart, he didn't really like me for whatever reason. And he said, you need to produce. You're probably not going to last. I'm going to give you 6 months to do $184,000. And you literally make a decision. There's a decision that's made that you go, you know what? I'm going to do whatever it takes, or, this isn't for me. And that's with anything. It's going to the gym. It's making sales calls. Someone says, go fuck yourself. I'm going to keep an email. And I go to my Instagram and I'm going to post the email that I got on my last email from a guy who goes to NYU and somehow was on my email list. And he literally wrote me 7 times 2 weeks ago on my last email that showed an exclusive that we were putting on. And he said, nobody wants your fucking condo. It's overpriced. And he started ripping me up just very viciously. I can handle it now. But back in the day, I would be like, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't email people. One person out of 12,000 people that are on my email newsletter, and everyone else said, dude, this video is great and everything else, okay? So that's when you make a decision. There is a decision always to be made that says, is waking up early right for me? Is this relationship right for me? My buddy, I learned, a week ago, he's gonna be going through a divorce. I had no idea. My sister's awesome, but when I messed up the trading the stock shares, she was like, you tried that, now what? Yeah. Listen, I'm 9 years into the industry, and I can tell you right now that I'm nowhere near where I want to go. And how did I get into Tony? I'll go into this really quick. In 2000, people in real estate, the good thing about real estate is that they are very open to learning. Most people are very open to learning. You have to be adaptable to change. So the sales guy comes in and he says, hi, and I never heard of Tony Robbins. I knew he was on Shallow Hal. That's all. So 2009, he comes in at Platinum Properties and he does this presentation, and he says, this is Tony Robbins. This is what he does, and he goes, if anyone wants to sign up, we're having in November. So it was in May he came. He said in November, Tony's coming to New Jersey, and he's going to be at the whatever center. And this is 2009, okay? And you should sign up. There's 3 different tiers. So I went for the lower one, and I had no money at the time. All my money was going to Craigslist listings. It was going to rent. I literally was just living on nothing. $38,000 in New York City is pebbles, and I wasn't even paying taxes, so I was owing the IRS, tons of money too. So it was like I'm like literally, you have to love just uncertainty. You have to love uncertainty. That's really what it comes down to. You have to love uncertainty if you want to do this. So sign up for the form, give them the $800, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to July. I ran out of money. I needed to ask I don't know if I asked my roommate for money, but I was zeroing out my Bank of America. I was getting dinged $35 every single time. I couldn't even eat. It was just a really bad time, that my first year in real estate, and I was hustling. It was so hot and I was sweaty, and I was going out, I was partying. It was just not a good time. And I remember just thinking over my mind, I'm like, there's still $800 that's just sitting with this Tony Robbins group. I don't, and by that time, I'm like, I don't need this. This is silly. And I was reading a little bit. I was sort of into, learning and things like that in 2009. That was only 2 years after discovering Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those two books I highly recommend. Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and How to Win Friends and Influence People. Highly recommend those. And I called the Tony Robbins group. I said, I need this. And I started making up this crazy story, which was pretty much true. I said, I need this for rent. I don't have enough money. They're going to kick me out. I'm going to be homeless. And I was just making up this crazy scenario. I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to starve to death. I'm going to die. And it's all going to, I was saying all these things because I needed that $800. And they said to get a refund, you have to go to the first day all the way through. And then the second day at lunch, you go to the customer support and they'll give you the money. That's the only way we don't give it out. So I said, all right, that's insane. So anyway, fast forward to November, go through the first day. I remember walking in, I'm like, these people are on Molly and or cocaine and or both. They're batshit fucking crazy, dancing on their seats and everything else. It was the second day, and I still needed the money. It was the second day, and it was lunchtime. So I'm like, the whole time, I'm like, the only reason I'm going here is to get my refund. That's the only reason. Lunch comes around, second day, go up to the customer service report, and I said, hey, listen, I'm looking for a refund. They say, why? They get into the regular, you should stay, and things like that. And I said, no, I want to leave. And they said, all right, here's the form. So I'm filling out the form, and dude, it literally comes down to decisions that you make. That's what life is. It's just a series of right or wrong decisions. And if I actually signed that piece of paper and handed it back, I'd be a totally different human. Why? Because I looked at it and she said, are you sure you want to do this? And it was the same thing at any other moment, except this time I went with grit. I went with my gut. I went with what felt right, which was, no, you know what? I'm going to stay. And she said, okay, cool. And not a big deal. It was lunchtime. People were hungry. There was a line behind me. It wasn't like this big dramatic thing. It wasn't like balloons fell from the sky and like, oh, by the way, in a year, you're going to be working for Halstead. And in 3 years, you're going to be starting your own company. Yay! It was just, okay, cool. I guess I'm going to stay and somehow just pay for my fucking life, somehow. So she takes the form away. And then I stayed. And then on Saturday, it's known as Transformation Day. And that's why. Tony comes back and, Transformation Day pretty much goes into your childhood. And I just remember sitting there and I left. And after that event, three things happened. Number one is I decided that I was going to go to a sales company. Number two is I broke up with my girlfriend. And number three was I told my roommate that I wanted to move out and move to a different area because he was sort of like, great guy, love the guy, best friends, but sometimes when you live with someone. So I made those three decisions that I needed to make. And those were massive decisions, but the minor decision of staying, of not signing. So I can't tell you enough is through that last 67 minutes of the video is you have to go with your gut almost all the time. And it's very small, insignificant decisions. Like this morning, I was out till midnight and I woke up 5 hours later. Am I tired? Yes. Am I hungover? A little bit. Did I just do 70 minutes of a live presentation about my entire life? Of course. And literally the whole time I'm thinking, maybe I'll do this on Monday. Maybe I'll do it on Tuesday. I don't feel like doing it today. And sure enough, there's minor decisions. Why? Because in the future, when I'm a little bit tired, or maybe I'm hungover, or maybe I have something to do, I remember back to this one decision, this small decision to go live, and I went for 70 minutes. My mouth is parched. 1 second. And I made the decision to go live because I promised everyone I'm going to go live. It's my 9th year anniversary of getting into real estate. Tomorrow's my 4-year anniversary of starting BPI, ironically enough, which is crazy, literally back to back. And it gives you the confidence, the small, insignificant. This could be a form of meditation and reflection. Oh, for me, when I journal in the morning, it's releasing the thoughts and the feelings that I have. And it's funny too, because I've actually started, Jordan Peterson said he's meditated on sentences for when he said that, he said days, sometimes months or years and everything else. And that's why his book is so popular, because I guarantee he's meditated on all 12 of those principles that he has in the book for years, clearly decades, because that's how long he's been practicing. But I can tell you one thing is that meditation on one thing, there's one thing that in my life, so there's three things that I want to change right now. Number one is being on time, because I'm always, I don't want to be early and then just sit there and wait. I feel like it's a waste of time. So I make that, that significant bullshit up in my mind so number one is being on time. Number two is meditate on why I get hungry at 2 p.m. Is it because I'm bored? Is it because I'm not busy enough? Is it because I'm actually hungry? So I want to meditate on that. And then the third thing is, I actually wrote it down. So emotions before eating. Bob Proctor said studies, paragraphs, Think and Grow Rich from 100%. They're actually doing that. Him and Sandy Gallagher, who he started the company with, they meditate on even a sentence. Yeah, on a sentence. I completely agree with every 2 weeks. I do it. Well, so this weekend is a perfect weekend. It's a perfect weekend to meditate on something and meditate isn't, it's just closing your eyes and saying, okay, why do I get hungry? And then going inside your body and saying, is it because I'm actually hungry? Is it because I'm bored? Food is emotions. Okay, that's the only reason we actually eat, is because we have an emotional and overeat, I should say, overeat. Obviously, yes, you're hungry and your body needs the fuel. It creates your skin, it creates your teeth, your hair, your eyes, your vision, your organs. It keeps your blood flowing. It's the energy. It's the lifeline. You only get one of these. There's a one of the best videos I've ever seen. Go look up Marcus. I forgot his name, Marcus, and it starts with an R. One of you guys who's on YouTube, look this up, MAR something, and he brings up that it's like buying a car. Your body is a car. You're only leasing this car until you give it away. And during that time, what kind of fuel are you putting in there? Are you putting gook? Is it not running properly? Are the windows getting stuck? That's the thing. I'm in the same boat, been succeeding in getting to class and work on time, hate being too early. Yeah, hard to teach everyone self-awareness. Self-awareness is really hard. There is no practical steps. Like if I tell you to wake up early, it's like turn off your device, which is practical, blue blocking glasses, go to bed at 9, and just keep on doing that consistently until your body gets used to going to bed at 9, and then you just wake up early. It's easy. There's practical steps. Self-awareness is really going inside and saying, where's the pain? Where's the emotions? Where's the feeling? Why do I feel groggy? Is it because I'm tired? Or is it actually because I'm not pushing myself enough? Is it because I didn't go live today? Is it because I didn't actually eat properly today? Why? And then you go back and then you adjust. All right. And then the last thing is sleeping. So I wake up at 4:55, 5 o'clock, and sometimes I go back and I go into bed and then I literally check my email or I post to social media. Posting to social media isn't as bad because I'm posting, but I would consume a YouTube video or something like that. And I want to make it congruent where I do that and then I can meditate, journal, and affirm my things. Wait, Charles, if you could only do 5, can you repost that? I don't know who posted 5 to 10 content creators, but I believe you've been killing and teaching us how to. Why? Because I need to do it. Before last year, not before last year, last year and before, I wasn't a fraud, but I was on the journey, but I wasn't admitting I was on the journey. I was pretending like I was already there and that everyone should do this. No, you have to admit that you're also on the journey. Gary's talked about it. He goes, if you're new, talk about, I'm brand new, and then talk about your experiences. This is how I am in real estate. This is how I am starting my own business, things like that. But if people put you if you put yourself as the expert, you're a year in, people are not going to believe that. That's not authentic. All right. So it's getting up right after my alarm goes, and I take the picture of my watch, is staying awake and journaling longer, meditating longer, and affirming longer. And then the other is getting on time and my emotions before eating. Those are the most important things that I'm going to be doing this year, and in business development and things like that. So what you need to take away is the lesson of listening to yourself, okay? Listening to what you feel, not analytically. It doesn't, when you date someone, it's not like, well, she's got a great hip to shoulder ratio, or whatever the fuck it's called. Hip to shoulder ratio. She's got long hair. She's got blue eyes. She's got a good jawline. She's in shape. You don't say that. You just say she's attractive. There's something about her. I just like it. And what's his name's talked about this. Simon Sinek's talked about it. It just feels right. Why do we have that? Because back here, okay, that's the mammalian brain. That's the core root to everything right here. It's just a little walnut sized, this isn't a walnut, but a walnut sized part of your brain that literally is the nerve sending. That's I think the subconscious. And then the rest just comes out on top of it. All right. I have to leave class, but you guys have a new subscriber. That's awesome, man. Best of wishes for fulfilling your goals. Thanks for the live video. All right. Well, listen, it sounds like some people are hopping off. I am as well. 73 minutes. If you guys have any questions, that's pretty much the story from the beginning. I'm on this journey with you guys. I'm not saying I'm the expert. I'm not saying that last night, I didn't eat poorly. I drank, of course. But as Tony Robbins said, or as anyone that has said, you have to do 80-20. For me, it's more 90-10, okay? Or 95-5, is that I only do one bad meal. Or as what's his name has said multiple times, Tim Ferriss has said, don't do he goes, if you do it for 24 hours, do it for 24 hours that day. Okay, that day. It's not 24 hours from noon Saturday to noon Sunday, because then you'll carry that until Sunday night. He goes, it's from the beginning of the morning on Saturday to the end of, and then that's it. Okay, I can't even do it that long. I wouldn't want to just feed my body sugar, because I know it becomes my skin, my cells, my brain, my teeth, my eyes, my skin. It becomes you. You are what you eat. And I think they said every 3 months your body literally transforms. That's why over time twins start really separating, because their skin is different and things like that. I'm just a Lisi Nason under a family. Yeah, I got to tell you that we have to consider the length of how long we're going to be around and start making decisions off of that. Okay, a lot of people are making short-term decisions, which is, well, that's fine. I'm on social media. That's fine. I didn't go live today. That's fine, Charles, that you stayed in bed because you only had 5 hours of sleep, and it's Friday and it's Good Friday, and people aren't really going to care. It's fine that you don't make sales calls after this, which I'm going to do. It's fine. What's his name? It's fine. Is Mel Robbins has talked about it in her infamous TED Talk. Is that I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine with an extra 10 pounds around my stomach. I'm fine with a shitty relationship, not having sex. I'm fine with my business going completely bankrupt and belly side up. I'm completely fine with my bald head because of stress and my skin and everything else breaking down. I'm fine with dying at 55 because I'm going to have a heart attack or a stroke. I'm fine with my kid being a drug addict. How many times are we saying I'm fine? And it's the small fucking decisions of not signing a piece of paper. And then from that small decision of not signing a piece of paper, not getting my $800 back, on Monday, right after the Tony Robbins event, tell my roommate I'm moving to another area, and saying that I want to get into a sales company, and then breaking up with my girlfriend. Things that I didn't have the courage to do. Those are massive decisions. That's housing, that's relationships, and that's your job. Okay, that's 3 big parts of your area. And I'm not saying, oh, he's a Superman. I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know who I was going to date. I didn't know what company I was going to go to. I had no idea. But that's the thing, is that you'll figure it out. That's grit. That's going with your emotions, is that you actually feel confidence going with your emotions and not what other people tell you should do. Okay? If I tell you, yeah, there's certain things that you need to learn, like I put marketing above sales. Elliot was right. I should put sales above marketing. The terror barrier is one of the best things. Yeah, you convince yourself you're fine. You go into it, and then if you stay, that's the only time the comfort zone actually gets put. To add to this, decisions like that allowed me to travel the world. Yeah, you're only here once. Okay, people are acting like they're gonna live here forever. Okay, it's as Seneca said, a lot of people think they live long lives. Or a lot of people think life is short, but it's actually long. They just live a short life. They think it's a short life because they put all this bullshit into their life. All these TV shows that don't matter. What entertaining? Who cares about entertainment? I understand there's outlets. I have my outlets. It's just really, you have to put it in line with what your goals are. If your goals are to just be a good person, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to be a Charles Botensten that's obsessive about all these things and is always just obsessed with learning and not having any downtime. Even I want to now get bored so I can go back to that and feel okay with being bored, because I think I take it to an extreme, which is fine. I don't care about anyone that's done anything worthwhile has been called over the top, obsessive, just someone that slow down. That's the thing. Two people wanted to leave, but you're charming them to leave. I couldn't say no, so I'm fine here. But instead, I said yes. Listen, I can tell you right now is you have to anyways, Charles, check out John Somez, and probably one of the best. You like him? He has 150. Wow, that's awesome. So the thing is with YouTube is that all the comments that you're leaving just get erased for whatever reason, unlike Facebook. Um, this is the last thing I'm going to leave you with is, obviously you know the actual story, is narrow down and actually take inventory of what you're doing as you're doing it. So say you're watching a TV show. This is when I started actually changing. As I'm eating a cookie last year, as I'm waking up late last year, as I'm not making sales calls last year, I would literally say, is this a good use of my time? Is this a good use of my time? And then just asking that question over and over. Is eating this cookie good for my health? Is not going to the gym good for my health? Is this mindset? There's so many things that I just started saying, no, it's not. And then over time, you start recognizing that is self-awareness. Self-awareness is, yes, it could be afterwards, but it's the biggest time is right then. Right then, when you're hungover or you're tired or you don't want to do it or your business is failing, or my buddy's going through a divorce and he goes, this is embarrassing. I don't want to go public with it. People thought we were like this lovely-dovey couple and we were going to, we were the power couple and everything like that. I said, dude, shit happens. She changed, you changed. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do now? What's your response now? Okay? You went with your feeling. She went with her feeling. It's just a lack of chemistry. It's just a lack of couple goals. And this is and I know I just said, Elena Cardone, so I highly recommend the 10X program that Grant Cardone put out there. I think it's $300 or $250. Highly recommend it. But it was the live stream from his event. And Elena Cardone which is Grant's wife, had probably one of the best that I've ever said. Having a minority mindset can get you lonely with people, but this is riveting. She had one of the best speeches out there, and she said something that was extremely important. She said that Clydesdales, which are the horses in the Budweiser commercial or Bud Light commercial, is a Clydesdale can carry 8,000 pounds. I don't know if you've ever heard of this before, but a Clydesdale can carry 8,000 pounds or pull 8,000 pounds. Two Clydesdales can pull 24,000 pounds. Three times with only two horses. So what she was saying is when you have that partner, that group of friends, you're not just 2Xing, you're 3Xing or 4Xing or 5Xing. And when you're a couple and you're aligned, or your business partner or your accountability partner or your friends or your family or your gym partner or whatever it is that you're not 1Xing or 2Xing, you're 3 or 4Xing. And then that over time is really what makes the change. All right, so that's enough for me. I'm gonna hop off. 82 minutes. Well, at least I can know. So, and I know I said I'm gonna leave you on. This is the conclusion I'm coming to in my mind. That I can freely speak for 82 minutes, which means what? I can actually do a speech, which is what I ultimately want to do is be running the company, kind of do what Gary does, is run the company and also do speaking, also do writing, but that's on the side. That makes whatever amount of money. It'll make me 10% of my income, but I love building businesses. I loved, SimCity and SimTower, and, they had a roller coaster tycoon. These were all games. I just loved building things. And it's the same thing with the business. I can't be a Grant Cardone, which I'm selling my services and products, and I'm saying it works for him or Bob Proctor or Brian Tracy or Tony Robbins. It works for them, but it doesn't work for me. With the seminar, that was, I think that's going to be like next year or the year after. I've really prioritized work, and then obviously this in the morning. But the confidence I'm getting for this, or what I get out of this, is that I can freely speak for 83 minutes, which is an hour and 20 minutes, hour 22 minutes, hour and a half, and then maybe go into Q&A. And right now, I don't feel tired. I feel alive, okay? So that's the biggest thing is it gives me confidence that when I'm hungover or when I'm tired or when I only have 5 hours of sleep, which is today, and it's Good Friday, I don't need to be here, and I'm still going to making sales calls after this on Facebook.com/Botensten. And by the way, I'm not plugging that because it's like, oh, Charles is going to start charging. No, it's because that's the accountability to myself. It's also the accountability to you guys to do what you say you're going to do. Because without accountability, there is nothing. Awesome video today. Five contra. Yeah. So can you actually, when I'm done with this, I actually let me take a screenshot of that because there you go. Thank you, Chris. So I took a, yeah, I know Tom. What I've learned, amazing. Obviously, Gary and John, I'm going to check out. So, what I could leave you, self awareness comes from making the decisions that you want to make, not analytically, but emotionally. What feels good to you? You're always going to get people that tell you otherwise for two reasons. One is it questions themselves. Right now, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm 32. I could do a tremendous amount of burpees. All my buddies are making fun of me. They're like, dude, you can't put up two plates. In other words, bench press two plates. I'm like, yeah, no, I can, which is 225. Okay. But I can fucking out burpee you. I can do way more box jumps than you. I can put up 25 pounds of a lot of these all the time. I have the energy and that's not my body type. So you're always going to get, regardless of what happens, they're going to question themselves or they're going to question you, and then after a while, they're just going to get used to it, and they're going to say, "This is who Charles is. This is the style he likes. He likes the CrossFit over the lifting." There's obviously always going to be the bodybuilders and the CrossFitters that just don't like each other, and they're just like, "You're a pussy" or "You're this." So with that, always know people are going to question you, especially the people you respect, especially my brother, my sister, my uncle, Richard, on both of them, both occasions, questioned. That's what it comes down to. So, yeah, the long term is a business plan. There is nothing about a business plan. Anything that you have questions with, when this stops, leave it in the comments because, like I said, Facebook doesn't allow the running comments for whatever freaking me. How many people focus on the weights over health? Yeah, supplements are terrible. It is literally chemicals. Supplements are chemicals running through your body. It's insane. It's like, can you spell the name? Can you understand the name? They're like phosphorate, hydroxyclean, blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, what is that? What am I putting in my body? Protein. You can easily get plant protein on Amazon. Plant protein is good. Animal protein, as long as it's clean and everything else, just go natural. Go with what we're supposed to be eating. Your body will love you. Your enthusiasm, your energy will love you. Your skin will love you. Your energy, your aging will love you. Okay. I can't even talk about health enough. Your look at your, that's my heart rate right there, 77. Yesterday, we were out to dinner and I compared it with my buddy. I was enthusiastic. I was telling a crazy story, and my buddy and he has a Fitbit or whatever. It doesn't matter what fucking watch you get. Okay. Obviously, I have the Garmin 5X Phoenix Sapphire, which is $800, completely necessary for me because I want to track three things. Number one is over time, my sleeping, my heart rate, and my active minutes. Okay. And obviously they have intense minutes and they break it down further from there, and they can do calories and weight and whatever. I don't give a shit about that. My weight isn't going to change much. My calories aren't going to change much, but how many steps I take, what's my heart rate? Because your heart rate is literally everything. Okay. It is your heart under pressure. So my buddy was bringing it up yesterday, and he said, my doctor told me I should lay off. This is crazy. I should lay off carbs or he said sandwiches, caffeine, and what was the other thing? Oh, cold cuts, which is like meat and dairy, deli bullshit and everything else. And I go, why? And he was talking about, no, I don't track calories or protein. I just go with what I know feels good. I know what I need, a certain amount of fuel, because I'm going to be talking. I'm not sitting down like I'm not right now. I know in the gym that I'm going to be shredding through a bunch of calories, and I'm going to need that energy later on, say in 2 hours when I'm going, or 3 hours when I go Facebook Live at someone's apartment, actually probably 3 or 4 hours. So I just go with the energy, natural energy, nuts, which is natural fat, walnuts, almonds, things like that. And just pick out your places and just go there consistently. And what's crazy is two things. One is that now I get a headache if I have too much sugar. I get a headache. If I have too much sugar. I think I had like a cookie, or I had a biscotti 2 weeks ago. And I was like, and this is self-awareness. I was like, wow, I feel groggy and whatever, because my body's not used to it. That was crazy. That was a crazy time. I was like, holy shit, I've been eating clean for so long that my body actually is rejecting this sugar because it was processed. It wasn't fruit, it wasn't a melon, it wasn't blueberries. It was a processed, high fructose corn syrup in a biscotti, and I don't know how much sugar was in there, but I break out when I do it. I get acne on like my legs because I'm like rubbing my pant legs, and I'm working out and things like that. It's the same when people get on their back or their face or things like that. An amazing discussion, revival, everyone keep pushing forward. You may think differently from everyone else, but yeah, exactly. um, Message retracted. Why not, Irwin? I realized sugar was a culprit of my yeah, sugar and carbs. So I'll just to go back to that story. So my buddy removed carbs, and he removed carbs, and he removed any kind of deli meats, and now he drinks decaffeinated coffee. And he said this crazy thing. You can't eat a Dunkin' Donuts anymore. I know. I used to eat a Dunkin' Donuts every single day. I'd get a bagel, a donut, and a large iced tea for almost every single day for a year and a half. And then I looked up that you could get, whatever rocks, kidney stones, I should say. And then I dropped the tea. And then I learned that in a bagel, it's actually a loaf of bread. That's how much carbs are in there. And I was like, holy shit. So I dropped the bagel. Then with the sugar, that was over time. I had no idea about sugar. I had no idea. That's the thing is, it wasn't that I knew and didn't, I just didn't even know. So my buddy lost 5 pounds in 2 weeks, and he said his heart pressure or blood pressure or whatever the fuck you call that went down. And it sounds obvious, but it's hard to do because he's 31 or 32. And then the other thing, then he brought up the heart rate. And my buddy, I was just telling a story. My buddy looks at his. It was at 89, and he was just sitting there. 89. That's high. That's high. Resting heart rate. He was eating, so his body was obviously breaking down things. He was drinking. We're an active group. We were yelling, bullshitting, high fiving, and things like that. But it was at 89. I looked at mine. I think it was 68 or something like that. And that just gave me the confidence that what I'm doing right now, my heart doesn't need to work as hard or as challenging or as much to pump blood to the necessary organs. That means it's free flowing. I've also brought my mindset down, which is very important to your heart rate. So I highly recommend getting this for two reasons: your heart rate, so you could check it all the time, because that's probably the best way. And then HRV, which is heart rate variability. Obviously, that's going to be in the advanced watches, hopefully. I don't know why they don't have it. Maybe because you need a really good heart, or you need a really good pulse to do HRV. So anyway, I'll black this guy out. Any questions, let me know right now, because I'm going to sign off, and I'm freaking on right now. I'm feeling good. I'm going to go down, get a chopped salad pretty soon. Actually, I'm going to bang out these calls because I need to keep my streak alive. Today is going to be day 24. I missed a couple of days. I was away last week. Monday, I don't know why I did not make calls. I think I was getting back. And then the last thing is accountability. Go with your feelings. You're going to get hate. You're going to get questions. But you have to look after your health. I think that's the foundation of life. Because if you don't look after your health, I know this one guy, my friend's father, he's morbidly obese. He needs help showering at his age, and it's not good because it puts pressure not only on himself, financial pressure not only on himself, but on his wife of 42 years. Okay, so it's take after yourself. If you start breaking down because of old age, that's totally different. If you start breaking down because you're 95 and that's what shit happens, I want to live to a buck 50, buck 70, buck 75. That's why I'm taking care of myself. I don't want to look old and gray and shitty and everything else. I want to be banging out burpees at age 60. I want to be skiing at 60. I want to be, keeping up with the young guns over here, until 60. I want to, so it puts pressure not only on yourself. If you don't have health, you have to look after yourself first, and then you can look after other people. And that's mindset, that's money, that's your body. You have to be selfish in that, because if you don't look after your money, if you don't look after your body, if you don't look after your mindset, everyone else is going to suffer. Your wife, your kids, your friends, your family, your legacy, everything is going to suffer. It's just a cyclical route. And that's one thing that I took away from Grant Cardone at his 10X streaming. And the only reason I'm pushing is because for $200, you're getting 21 videos, and I watch it at 2.5 times the speed. And I started like 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and I watched, 15, 20 minutes. That's how long my lunch is now. 15, 20 minutes, and which is really about an hour, because it's at 2.5, 3 times the speed. So, um, heart rate surgery till 95 is over 100 now. He's a vegan. I'm going to take a screenshot of that. Yeah, so I'm signing off for now. You guys are awesome. That's an hour and a half. I have a ton of energy. Been standing the whole time. I'm definitely going to be having to drink a lot, and then obviously refuel. So, any questions? Let me know. Monday, the new Monday thing is actually I now am planning it out. I'm also going to be doing a blog, starting April 1st. So make everyone happy. Yeah, I heard this guy as I was walking in, and get the avocado on the salad. Yeah, the avocado is. You know what? This is a funny story. I thought avocado was cilantro in the Chipotle, because I had Chipotle for the first time in like 2011. I'm like, ugh. I'm like, this tastes like soap. How do you guys eat this? Because people are like propping like Chipotle's the best thing ever. And then they obviously did a case study with the Biz Doc over on Valuetainment. Highly recommend Valuetainment, and look that up. And they obviously started going down because they lost their quality of food. You can't lose your quality. That's why Apple products, it's going to be between Apple or, might even be SpaceX or Alphabet company, first $1 trillion company. And Monday, so I'll just go over this really quick. Monday's title is going to be Make Everybody Happy. This guy came in yesterday, and I heard him in passing. It's funny what you hear in passing. And the guy said, he goes, I just want to make everybody happy. And I heard that in passing. And it's funny, when you're in personal development, you notice things that other people don't notice, like that. I walked by, and I just remember thinking, you can't, you can't, you can't. It's impossible. Like 50% of the people hated Bush and Barack Obama and Trump. 50% hated them. They still got elected. So 50%, that's on the extreme. 50% will not like you or care what you have to say or whatever. It's only about the other 50%. Some people said you should have more subscribers. Okay, cool. Like I'm in it for the long game. I want you guys to talk about in the future. Talk to you guys soon. And there's a dog outside.